It's the Foreign Secretary, that's Lord Cameron. He's been speaking. It's nice to hear from him. We don't hear from him that often. Let's have a listen to what he's saying.
We've been involved in this maritime corridor from the start because what it's going to do is take aid from Cyprus in the Mediterranean and directly into Gaza. What we've been doing is helping with the pre-screening of aid. So you check it in Cyprus so it doesn't have to be rechecked when it arrives. That's important. We also had the Royal Auxiliary ship Lime Bay delivering aid from Cyprus right at the start. But this new idea from the President of the United States, which we're involved in, of building a temporary harbour in Gaza, means that aid will be able to go directly from Cyprus to Gaza. But it's going to take time to build. So the crucial thing is today the Israelis must confirm that they'll open the port at Ashdod. That is in Israel, but that's a working port. It could take aid now, that would increase the amount of aid, and that aid can then be driven into Gaza. That would make a real difference, and we need to make a real difference right now.
Are you frustrated at how long it's taking to set this corridor up and overall at how aid is getting into Gaza?
But this is frustrating because we need more aid to go in. In the last few days, we've averaged about 120 trucks of aid going in. We need more like 500 a day, not 120. And we've repeatedly called on the Israelis to change the things that need to be changed. More openings into Gaza, more UN staff inside Gaza able to transport the aid around Gaza, making sure that they switch back on the water and electricity that goes from Israel to Gaza. These things would make a difference. And if we want to make a difference quickly, it is the number of trucks that go in that's most important and that we can measure. Because at the moment, the humanitarian situation is dire, with people who are going hungry, with people dying of disease, and with a shortage of food and medicine and all the things that people need.
Given these delays, does this just not show that there's not much hope of a ceasefire anytime soon?
Well, I think there is the chance for ceasefire, but it requires Hamas, who should have released the hostages in my view already, but it needs them to sign up to the deal that Israel has agreed to release prisoners in their jails in return for hostage release. Hamas should sign that today. Then we could have that pause for 45 days or maybe even longer and use that pause to build momentum for a permanent, sustainable ceasefire without a return to fighting. We all want to see this terrible fighting stop, and that would be the best way to make it happen. But it is for Hamas to make that decision, and they should do that today.
Just a quick question. Theresa May isn't actually standing down. Just get your reaction. Are you sad to see her leave Parliament?
I think Theresa May has been an absolutely brilliant public servant. We served together in shadow cabinets and cabinets for over 12 years, and she's got a string of great achievements to her name, championing modern slavery legislation, making sure more women got involved in politics, acting as the board in terms of...
Guess we'll never know what she was acting as. What was she acting as?
Probably a fantastic constituency MP. That seems to be the narrative today.
I was hoping that it would be something like Godzilla, you know.
Well, GP News political editor Christopher Hope has been listening and he joins us now. Mostly focused there on our approach to helping facilitate aid to Gaza. Also asked about the hopes of a ceasefire.
Yeah, that's right. Well, it's starting now with what we were saying about Theresa May. I think that's totally right. She was and is an amazing constituency MP. I vividly remember during the Brexit battles 2017 to 2019 when she would come back from those events over in Brussels and then just go and serve food to old people in Maidenhead on Saturday lunchtime. I mean, she did all this amazing work keeping herself tied in, yoked into her local community. And the fact that she should announce her leaving in the Maidenhead Advertiser, and then when she leaves, she says I'm leaving because I haven't got time I can't give my time I want to give to you local people. I'm doing all this work with modern slavery. I mean, every single bit of her is about public service. You can have a debate about whether she failed on Brexit and nearly ruined it with her plan, but I think she was an amazing MP. Ken Clarke called her a difficult woman. I think she took that as a compliment. She was somebody who pursued her objectives on modern slavery, on promoting women in Parliament, and she was a complete trailblazer, I think. And even David Cameron there being very nice about her, because the two did not get on that well. She was certainly, when he was Prime Minister and she was Home Secretary, the advisors to both certainly were very careful with each other, and they could see her as a clear rival to him in number 10, because of course she was Home Secretary during his entire time as Prime Minister. But you saw there the Foreign Secretary David Cameron, I think, showing why he is increasingly an asset, I think, to Rishi Sunak. I know many wondered why he was appointed back in the reshuffle last November, but in truth, he is pushing really hard on the things that matter. He's projecting the UK aggressively around the world, and just today they're announcing the plan to try and start sending aid by ship from Cyprus through a port in Israel called Ashdod, and then take that straight into the Gaza Strip, trying to alleviate what could be a famine a few weeks away. So I think he is showing what you can do with power in the world when you want to, and he's putting other MPs who had that role in the past before him to shame.
Chris, perhaps one of the reasons he's showing that power around the world is because he's not like Theresa May. He doesn't have to turn up and go to the local coffee morning with the pensioners group, and he doesn't have to sort of... what was the thing
Also,
that
can we
Theresa May...
not forget also that Theresa May did bring us dangerously close to a Jeremy Corbyn Prime Minister? I mean, we can't forget that, can we? She made some dire mistakes and errors of judgment, surely.
Emily, I was being very careful not to forget that. I did mention that it almost went wrong during Brexit. I was merely saying that she's a very good local MP and a public servant. I'm definitely saying that she got some choices wrong on Brexit, absolutely no question. But you raised there, Tom, the question of Lord Cameron. I was having lunch recently with an ambassador for an EU country, and they were saying it is confusing because David Cameron turns up, the former Prime Minister, they all know him, and they're not quite sure who's in charge of our foreign affairs. Is it David Cameron or is it Rishi Sunak? I mean, the problem Sunak's got is today he's in a pub in north west of England doing interviews. You know, he's away basically Monday, Thursday, Friday, trying to win votes, win people around, talk to people, talk to us as journalists, trying to hold this majority together ahead of the election later this year. But yes, and he's almost outsourced foreign policy to David Cameron,
it's
who
quite,
is
it's
good
quite
on the world
useful
stage.
having a foreign secretary in the Lords. They don't have to go back to their constituencies. They can travel all over the world. He's gone so many different countries and done so much stuff in the 100 or so days he's been in the job. But Chris, I do want to ask you on your exclusive story that you brought to us last hour. The government is to appoint an advisor on Islamophobia.
Yes, now I've got some more on that, because since we came out, that someone else got in touch to make clear it's not you're asking very correctly about the job title. It's not an advisor on Islamophobia, it's an anti-Muslim hatred advisor.
Really?
Because, as you were saying, that term is not defined by the government. So, exactly right, it's an anti-Muslim hatred advisor. It's likely to come next week. The individual we've been told about, Faisal Mughal, founder of Faith Matters and Tell Mama, he is one of the front runners for the role, and nothing is signed off yet. So the government is slightly rowing back from him being nailed on, but it looks like they are going to appoint somebody. It will be a moment, I think, and if they can get someone who is independent and can try and take on the government's approach on Prevent, which was heavily criticised by William Shawcross last year, that'll be seen to be a good thing.
Chris, that is such an important clarification. And Emily and I both breathed a sigh of relief there. We're steering clear of blasphemy law, of this nebulous term Islamophobia. Stick to the real, definable anti-Muslim hate stuff. That in the title, really, really good to know. Thanks for joining us, Christopher Hope.
Very interesting.